This video is brought to you by strawberry.me, but more on that later. First, you gotta watch this woman freak out over the fact that her food stamp benefits are being cut.
Where are the celebrities? Where are the mothers? Where is Kim Kardashian? Where is Cardi B? Where is Taylor Swift? Where is Beyonce? 40 million people are about to lose their food assistance, and they do not care because they are part of the system. Wake up!
So I know this is going to shock a lot of you out there in the audience, but never, and I mean absolutely ever, despite my struggles in the past, despite the many periods of time in my life where I would describe myself as broke, did I ever think it would be a good idea to look up into the sky and pray to Kim Kardashian, Cardi B, and Beyonce to save me from a cut in my food stamps. But this woman right here, she's at her wit's end. Who else is she to look to? Definitely not strength from within herself in order to provide for herself and her family, but these celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Beyonce, and Cardi B. But the thing about this particular video is it actually gets even more hilarious as it goes on, because she actually recommends that fans of these particular celebrities do something in response to the fact that Kim Kardashian, Beyonce, and Cardi B are not helping them with their food stamp situation.
Nobody needs Skims when they're actually skin and bone. Nobody needs 12 albums with the same music. Wake up, they don't care. They want you to starve. Starve them. Do not buy their stuff.
Look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're actually struggling to buy food, if you're legitimately worried about where your next meal is going to come from, then you should already not be buying Kim Kardashian's line of lingerie or the next album from Beyonce or Cardi B. This woman's like, we are going to boycott you because we can't afford to eat, and we realize based on the fact that you're not speaking up that you just want us to starve, and you're so inhumane that we are no longer going to use our meager dollars that, again, can't even afford to feed us, allegedly, to buy your albums and your lingerie.
They want children to starve. Wake up.
This is a legitimate thought that came into this woman's head, which is she will no longer forgo eating in order to support Kim Kardashian, Beyonce, and Cardi B, due to the fact that Kim Kardashian, Beyonce, and Cardi B will not help her eat. It is the most insane thing you can possibly imagine, and it's also a phenomenon that can only be described as learned helplessness. These people that we're showing clips of throughout the course of this video have become so dependent on the system that they actually can't even imagine a world where they take care of themselves. They can't even imagine improving their own lives with their own strength, and this is the sad state of affairs when people get addicted to the welfare system. However, for those of you out there in the audience who are not at this level yet, who actually want to achieve, I have a great sponsor for you, so I'm going to toss it over to strawberry.me, and then I'll catch you guys with more clips on the other side of this ad read. Do you feel like your career is currently stuck in neutral or worse, headed in the wrong direction? Do you feel like you have goals and ambitions, maybe for a promotion, maybe you're looking to shift industries, maybe you're looking for better habits at the workplace, or maybe a better work-life balance, but you can't quite connect your current actions to your future goals? Well, that's where coaching would come in handy, and luckily for you, today's sponsor, strawberry.me, offers that very coaching. The coaching over at strawberry.me is a collaborative process based on proven methodologies like cognitive behavioral coaching and motivational interviewing. They actually can help you plan out your future goals by first identifying them, and of course, they can hold you accountable to your plan of action that you develop together. And again, this collaborative process. These people are not here to talk down to you. They're not here to lecture you. They're here to partner with you. And unlike traditional coaching, strawberry.me is an affordable membership. They will also be able to work with you to fit into your schedule, and you just take a quick survey in order to get matched with a coach and start working toward your career goals. Now, long-term viewers of this channel know that I've had a documentary film project in my mind as something I wanted to do for years, but I never felt like I had the time due to the fact that I'm producing nearly 2 videos a day for you guys. So I actually went over this with my strawberry.me coach, and one of the things I realized is that A, it's actually okay if I don't produce this documentary. I'm giving you guys plenty of content, but B, they help me plan out some space where I would be able to do this, because in reality, it actually does not take that long in order to shoot the footage for a film. And since most of my job is editing anyway, once I get it shot, I actually can work on it in between the videos that I make. And honestly, that just provided me a great relief, and maybe, just maybe, will provide you a documentary in the future. Now, based on my experience, I highly recommend you check out this service for yourself. So go to strawberry.me/AJW, where you can get 50% off your first week, or scan the QR code on your screen. That's strawberry.me/AJW. Stop waiting for a promotion. Start making it happen. Connect with a career coach. That is strawberry.me/AJW for 50% off.
There is nothing wrong with someone being on food stamps, okay? Y'all are highly mistaken to sit there and criticize someone for getting the help that they need for their family. And y'all keep coming for me because I've been on food stamps for the past 15 years. Do realize that I qualified for food stamps because of my income, right?
Yes, lady, we do realize that you qualify for food stamps, which is an income-based program due to your income. And to be 100% clear to everybody out there in the audience, while these people are the worst of the worst, these are the welfare queens that are going across the internet.com to complain about how their lives are so sad and how they're entitled for you to pay for their meals. I want you to understand that if you're legitimately in need of assistance, for instance, you're disabled or maybe have a disabled child, or you're elderly and you just can't afford to make ends meet on a fixed income, then I 100% understand. And by the way, I'm totally fine with you taking from the system. We actually have this crazy thing in this nation where a lot of people who are legitimately struggling, they cannot actually feed themselves, or it's a huge struggle for them to do so, would never even think of applying for these programs. Meanwhile, you have this woman right here who doesn't want to be judged for being on it for 15 years because she's on it due to the fact that she has no income. Now, do you think that this is a strawberry.me customer, somebody who's getting career coaching in order to advance in her life? Or do you think her low income, or maybe even no income, is due to the fact that she just refuses to work? Let us find out in the remainder of this video.
Because I don't have any income. I haven't had income in the past 15 years, and I have been able to have my bills paid, my food paid for, and I'm in Section 8 housing. Okay? These are all programs that I'm entitled to because I do not make enough. Okay? So before you go and pass judgment on someone, realize that everyone's life situation is not going to be the same as yours.
The absolute irony of this person who is leeching off the system for 15 years and according to her hasn't worked in those 15 years to say, hey, listen, before you lecture people on their lifestyle choices, I just want you to remember that not everybody's in the same situation as you. You know, you might go out and work a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, do overtime, be putting in 50, 60 hours a week in order to pay for the increased cost of groceries and housing and all these different various things that regular, ordinary, middle-class Americans are struggling with. But me, I'm entitled to your money. I'm entitled to the taxes that you pay into the system because I've refused to work for the last 15 years. My income isn't high enough because I quite literally have no income. And again, this woman may have some disability that we don't know about. We may be dealing with somebody who actually below the neck is just completely crippled. I sincerely doubt it, 100% think that she's scamming the system, but these are the exact people that are bitching and moaning about the freeze in food stamp benefits that honestly generate no sympathy, not only from me, but from regular, ordinary Americans, and by the way, actual Americans that are dependent on the system due to no fault of their own. But yeah, this is a scam to the extreme. 15 years with no income, 15 years with no income. This woman couldn't work a minimum wage job. She couldn't work at McDonald's, get a free lunch from there. Everything had to come from the taxpayer. 100% of the money in her pocket, the housing that she's getting is Section 8, needs to come from the state, from the taxpayer. And then she has the audacity on probably a taxpayer funded phone to say that she's entitled to it. She's entitled to your revenue. And again, these are the people that are complaining. And by the way, this isn't even among the worst complaints about the cuts to food stamps due to a government shutdown. Again, a government government shutdown that the Democrats are putting forward in order to preserve tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, because the program is so busted that it won't work without additional government tax credits that were only supposed to be in place from the federal government during the pandemic.
Okay, you might work 40, 50 hours a week and you might have income coming in, but there's people like me out here who don't have anything to their name that have to rely on these programs because they don't have jobs. What do you expect us to do?
Get a job! That's what we expect you to do. I expect you to get a job. It's been 15 years. 15 years? You never sent a resume in? Remember, we just passed through maybe the greatest advantage ever for workers in the labor crunch that happened post-COVID. Wages were going up across the nation, and this woman's like, what do you expect me to do? I mean, why are you upset? Just because you work 50 to 60 hours a week, putting in that overtime in order to provide for your family, how can you expect me to even work 4 hours a week? How can you expect me to even be somebody who works remotely? What's wrong with you? Are you an absolute scumbag? I am entitled to your revenue. I mean, again, what do you expect me to do? I can't believe she actually said that. Let me play that again to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
But there's people like me out here who don't have anything to their name that have to rely on these programs because they don't have jobs. What do you expect us to do?
Yeah, this woman's like, what do you want me to do? Actually do this thing called WARC? I don't even know what that word is. W-O-R-K? Is that WARC? WARC? What even is that?
So, like, on a serious note, like, the real reason why they can't take my shit, because how the fuck y'all gonna take this shit in November? That's when Thanksgiving and people eating food and preparing meals and shit and bringing potlucks and bring your own dish and bring a dish and like, what the fuck am I gonna eat? Some crackers? Some bread? What, all I'm gonna be able to get is some stuffing? Some cornbread? I won't even be able to go get me a motherfucking ham. Like, y'all gonna what? Huh? Trump come again? Cause y'all lucky I don't know where y'all live and I work at that tab.
Look, I'm sorry, but these videos are all over the internet, and each and every one of them are more ridiculous than the last. Now, first and foremost, I just want to say, as somebody who is broke at different periods of time growing up, but basically one of those families that's in between where you don't make enough money in order to live in the area comfortably that you currently live in, but also you don't qualify for any government programs, I legitimately feel the struggle of having to do Thanksgiving on a very tight budget. I mean, you guys all know that I did the food stamp challenge as a video on this channel earlier this year, absolutely killed it, and part of the reason that I was able to do it so successfully and under budget was due to the fact that that's actually how I've eaten for most of my life, because A, half Puerto Rican, we know how to eat cheap, and B, because I've actually had to do this without any government assistance. But this particular woman right here has actually brought something to the forefront that I think is worthy of critique, and while I am sympathetic to people who, again, actually can't do for themselves in the holiday season, this woman does not appear to be one of those individuals. Again, she's in a car, she seems to be able-bodied, she seems like she should be able to get a job, and also she doesn't seem to understand that Thanksgiving, while it is a tradition where families come together and you have a big feast, that feast is considered a reward at the end of the harvest, because presumably everybody who participated in that feast actually participated in the labor that produced said harvest. Like, they're missing the whole point that yes, it's about family and coming together and whatnot, but this is something that is earned, or at least it was felt like it was earned. And by the way, people were grateful for it. This is why certain people have traditions where they talk about what they're grateful for the year so far. And by the way, traditionally, that would be the harvest. That would be the work that you put in and how it paid off. So there's like a bit of extra irony in the fact that she's so mad that food stamps aren't going to cover her non-working ass for this particular harvest feast, when the theme of the feast traditionally, again, is actually you're celebrating the end of the harvest. All the crops, everything you sowed throughout the course of the year is coming to fruition, and this woman unironically doesn't understand that you do in fact reap what you sow.
Why y'all so worried about people losing their EBT? Like, not worried, I mean like people who are celebrating people losing their EBT, like get a job and stuff like that. What does people getting EBT have to do with you? Like, what is it doing to you? Like, what is it taking out of your pocket? What is it? Your taxes and shit still gonna be the same. So why are you celebrating somebody losing something that has no benefit to you?
So look, this woman has one salient point in there, which is that we are not going to save any money on our taxes due to the fact that this program is temporarily being suspended during the course of the government shutdown. However, I do want to point out that society does in fact benefit when you get off your ass as an able-bodied person and get a job and get off these government programs. And the reason for that is because then you become something called a contributor rather than just somebody who is consuming. And again, I will remind you, I'm not talking about the elderly, the legitimately disabled, the people who have family members that are disabled, whose income cannot quite cover that thing that exists due to no fault of their own. Who I'm talking about are able-bodied folks like this woman right here, the people who have a bunch of kids out of wedlock, refuse to work, and then of course just keep cashing in on those government benefits. And by the way, if this cut were legit, if it wasn't going to be restored after the government shutdown was resolved, then maybe we would benefit, because right now we're paying a crap ton of money on interest on the debt, and every single one of these programs is something that we're borrowing for. And I think the numbers for this particular program are north of $140 million at this moment in time, which is absolutely insane. It went up dramatically during the Biden years, and part of that can be attributed to inflation due to the fact that the cost of food ended up rising so dramatically in those years. But yeah, this is a huge drain on our system, despite what people like Tim Walz says, which is that every dollar put into the SNAP program generates $1.80 in economic activity. Now, this is an insanely stupid argument that is rooted in this idea of a multiplier effect that essentially says that money spent right away has greater impact than when you save or invest that money over time. It's absurd and ridiculous, and a perfect counter argument to this is that if putting money into SNAP produces $1.80 for every dollar in, why don't we just put in like $45 trillion into the SNAP program, and then we can basically pay off our national debt, and in addition to that, set up a dramatic other welfare system with all the multiplied dollars that will come from it. Obviously, this is not a thing. This is not legitimate. This is absurd. These people are draining the system. In fact, in reality, they're likely bidding up the price of groceries because we are subsidizing demand with these particular programs. And in addition to that, food stamps are essentially just corporate welfare. The people who are getting the most benefit out of this are companies like Walmart, major retailers that sell you groceries, that do whatever it takes in order to extract this money from the government through the people that are receiving it.
So you're telling me that someone in higher power decided that it'd be totally fine to take away SNAP benefits right before the holidays, and now they're talking about taking away our depresso espresso medications? So you're gonna make the majority hungry and psychotic?
So first of all, you're already psychotic. Secondly, and I just want to point this out, you seem to have some nice nails right there. You got them claws perfectly manicured. Maybe, just maybe, you should take a page out of the other girl's book, who of course is praying to the gods, Kim Kardashian, Beyonce, and Cardi B, and saying that if they don't answer her prayers, then she's not going to buy their albums or their lingerie line, and cut back on those extras like getting your nails done if you legitimately can't eat. And as far as your medication, honestly, just bring back the asylums, lock these people up, throw away the key, get the straitjackets out of storage. We have to do this. In fact, it's costing us way too much money not to do this.
Bro is waiting in the dispensary parking lot, asking people if they have any spare roaches. I don't think y'all understand. The crash out levels is about to go through the roof. No food stamps equals no to less weed money. Like, y'all about to have people out here hangry and sober. That's a diabolical combination. Because the food money got to come out of some budget, and that's the first one it usually comes from. All I'm saying is just be nicer to people in these coming days, because that blunt and those snacks may have been the only thing stopping your coworker from putting you first in line for a meet and greet with God Almighty.
Now look, if you have been paying attention, you likely have noticed a trend in all these different various videos of people complaining and whining about food stamps, and how overwhelmingly the majority of them are in fact women. And in fact, the first man video that I stumbled across was this one right here. But if you actually listen to this guy in particular, he's not going crazy about the food stamps being taken back. He's actually describing an amazing economic economic phenomenon that people have been arguing for years and the left wing has been saying is not a thing at all, which of course is the fungibility of funds. If you are subsidizing in this one area for food, in reality, what people do is they take that money out of what they would have normally spent on that thing and use it for other activities, other luxuries. In this particular case, what he's citing is actual drugs. So what he's saying is that the food stamp program is actually subsidizing people's drug habits. Now, in this particular case, it's marijuana. That's what he's referencing. But I actually give this guy an A+ in economics right here, and he is not to be included in anybody's thumbnails when we're talking about welfare queens melting down related to food stamps. And especially when the people that follow this guy are talking about all the different crimes that they're now entitled to commit due to the fact that you took away their food stamp.
All I know is if they stop my food stamps, me and my man will be at the grocery store walking out with two big ass carts. And ain't bet nobody better do nothing because my man coming hard behind me and it only take him one time to punch your ass.
So in addition to learned helplessness, which is people who are become so dependent on the system, they can't even imagine doing for themselves, we also have a bunch of entitlement behavior, a bunch of welfare queens that say that they are going to steal what they're no longer getting paid for by the government, and it's somehow on you that they can't control their behavior, that they refuse to participate in society. And again, this is a stunning look into the underbelly of this nation, and all of this has been exposed just by the threat of the government shutdown, which, by the way, was pushed for by the Democratic Party, actually impacting these people in particular. Because again, this program hasn't gone into effect, and it won't go into effect until November 1st, assuming that the government shutdown isn't resolved by then. In addition to that, you also have a bunch of states with rainy day funds that theoretically could use that to supplement this program in the intermediate. However, a lot of them are refusing to do so because they want these people to suffer. They want chaos. They want to be able to blame it on the evil orange man. But the people themselves are completely undercutting the narrative, because while we're often seeing those who are actually, in need, that are struggling, that are reliant on the program, make no mistake about it, these are absolute scammers that are grafting off the system. These are the parasites, and they're just getting away with it, and they've been there all along. The fact is, for some people, they are comfortable enough living off the system, and they actually do things that make them less productive on purpose in order to maximize their benefits, and these are the people right now that are threatening to kill you if you don't keep paying for their food.
I'll tell y'all straight up like this, I just got that text that the link is definitely cut the off for November. Y'all better stay the out of my way in these stores. I'm walking out with carts and I'm not paying for shit. Trump, if you won't start looting, what's gonna happen? Before my kids go broke in this jock, I'm gonna be stealing.
Now, I also want to point out that these people already are robbing the grocery store. They already are looting the shelves. This is why when you go into a grocery store or a pharmacy, a bunch of the merchandise is actually locked up. But you see the entitlement right there. You see these people saying, I'm willing to do absolutely anything in order to provide food for my kids, except work, except get a job, except actually advance in my career. I definitely won't do that. But anything else, I'm right there with you. Any kind of crime, any kind of person that I gotta hurt, any kind of part of society that I need to undermine, I'm right there, because I'm actually really low IQ. I've become dependent on the system. I feel entitled to other people's money. And again, my kids are the convenient excuse for me to exercise how evil and rotten of a person I actually am. And this is the madness we're seeing these people post all over social media themselves. They are publishing this. They are making the case that this is who they are. And you know what? I understand if people see this and think to themselves, maybe we don't need to ever bring back this program. Maybe we need to work something else out for the elderly and the disabled. But these people, they need to get a job. They need to get the hell up off the couch. They need to get out of the snack aisle at the grocery store, because notice the amount of obese people that are desperately looking for their next meal, because this has become an absolute unmitigated disaster. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias. You can support me by supporting today's sponsor, strawberry.me. Use code AJW. This has been me talking about the welfare queens raging out. Till next time.